Welcome to the Group Dentistry Now show, the voice of the DSO industry. Kim Larson and Bill Newman talk to industry leaders about their challenges, successes, and the future of group dentistry. Visit groupdentistrynow.com for more DSO analysis, news, and events. Looking for a job or have a job to fill? Visit joindso.com. We hope you enjoy today's show.
And I'd like to welcome everybody to the Group Dentistry Now show. Happy to have you here today. I'm your host, Bill Newman, and really happy to have our next guest who represents a company, an organization that I think a lot of people know, but they might not know exactly what they do and all the benefits that they have. So, Luc LaLiberte, welcome to the Group Dentistry Now show. Appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So Luc is the Director of Membership at the ADSO, that's the Association of Dental Support Organizations. And Luc has been in a membership role for other organizations for most of his career. And Luc initially started out in customer service support role at a national nonprofit. When he moved to Washington, D.C., which of course is where the ADSO is headquartered, was promoted into a data management role. And then it looks like you were in membership marketing and communications, and then you transitioned over to the ADSO. So Luc is going to talk about membership at the ADSO, going to talk about some of the meetings that the ADSO has and all the lovely benefits. So again, welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, and again, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Great.
It's nice to be able to, a lot of what I do, I end up having to send emails or send social messages. So it's nice to be able to talk and not have a character limit on the message I'm trying to deliver.
Yeah, I know it is. You've got a lot of moving parts, a lot of different types of membership. You have different meetings, different benefits. So hopefully we can help give you the forum to explain that. So let's start out with a little bit about who the ADSO is. I think a lot of our audience, again, knows something about the ADSO, maybe from attending probably the summit would be the meeting or the event that you're known best for. But let's talk about member benefits. The ADSO is an organization, and then we can talk a little bit more about the different events that you have.
Sure, yeah. So it's kind of all wrapped up in the name. We are the Association for Dental Support Organizations. So DSOs, they're the companies that we're trying to support. One of the main ways that we do that is, like you mentioned, we have our events. That's our opportunity to provide education to DSOs at varying levels. But we also do a lot of advocacy support for our members. So I think especially with some of our larger members, some of our national members, that's where they're seeing a lot of the benefit of membership with us. Is we can help be the single face of this entire industry, this entire sector, and support all of them holistically, provide the kind of voice that they need to continue to practice and support their dental offices. So that's a big one. Our events is the other piece. Our events are, of course, open to non-members as well, but our members get a nice discount. And then because we're an association, our DSOs, their CEOs make up our board. So they actually meet 3 times a year. They get to talk about exactly what we can do to help them the best. And it's a good networking opportunity for them also. So those are kind of the main things with DSO membership with us.
Well, that's great. Yeah, and I mean, if you haven't attended an ADSO event, they are pretty spectacular. And you mentioned networking, which I almost forget about, but probably one of the most important things, kind of the who's who of the DSO industry for sure. So tell us a little bit about your role. We know you're the membership director. So what do you do on a day-to-day basis to help out emerging groups and industry partners and large DSOs?
Yeah, we are a small but powerful staff at ADSO. So I am the membership director, and that has led to wearing many hats, as you can imagine. I get my hands in just about anything that would affect our membership, which is everything.
Including video podcasts.
Including doing interview podcasts like this. So I definitely support our kind of event staff leading up to Summit and leading up to Partnering for Growth, which is our other event. So helping to plan the agenda a little bit, identify speakers. We source our speakers from our members. So being the membership director, I do a lot of outreach around that. We know we want to have such a topic at our event. Who do we already have a relationship with that can talk on it? I do a lot of I do all of the member onboarding for our new members, definitely. And then beyond kind of sourcing, talking to a little bit of kind of exhibiting, I do go to some events to talk about ADSO and introduce us to people who maybe don't know us that well yet or want to know more about us. So other than that, it's a largely supportive role. Because I deal with our members, I could get pulled into creating new benefits or event planning or whatever they need me for. So I get around a little bit at this organization, and it's kind of the nice thing with a small staff. You get to know everybody really well.
So if anybody ever reaches out to the ADSO for any membership information or membership support, most likely that will be you that they'll be speaking to or emailing.
It'll almost certainly be me. There's it depends on what number they found first on our website, but it usually gets routed to me eventually.
That sounds good. So you're a good person to know.
I like to think so.
So let's look a little bit in more detail about benefits. So maybe we'll start out with the vendors or the industry partners. Tell us a little bit about, why somebody should become or should look at membership as an industry partner, somebody that's not a DSO or an emerging group.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked a lot about our DSO members, but we do have our industry partner program, which is, to kind of simplify it, is basically our membership offering for vendors, anyone who provides any sort of service or products to DSOs or dental offices. And ADSO is trying to be the bridge between those two audiences. We want to help our industry partners gain more visibility with our DSO members, and we want to help our DSO members match up with the industry partners who provide the services or products that they need, that they're looking for. So the benefits of the industry partner membership are designed with that in mind. So access to our events is one of them. It's member locked, so nobody who's not an active industry partner of ours is going to be sponsoring or attending our events. But there's besides those two events per year, there's a host of other kind of ongoing benefits. Our industry partners provide content for our newsletter. We list their events alongside ours on our website. That's actually something new that we started doing. So our events tab is starting to get a bit more full.
That's great.
We're trying to showcase what they have to offer, and then we're trying to match them as intentionally as we can with the DSOs that need them and are looking for them. Oh, and you asked about pricing also. It's the industry partner program is $6,000 annually, but you gave me another beautiful opportunity to talk about something new that we're doing. We've recently started to prorate that, which is something that I was pushing for a little bit as soon as I got in. And I don't think there was really any resistance. I just don't think anyone had thought about it, had the membership seat here. So I was talking to industry partners who wanted to sign up in the middle of the year. They'd already missed Summit, which is our larger event, and there's not as much ROI for them. And that's totally fair. That's fine. I want our memberships. I want our members on the industry partner and DSO sides to have long-term relationships with us. I want those relationships to be valuable to them. So I don't want them to come in at a time when it's not going to give them what they're actually looking for. So by prorating that, it really helps a lot. They're not paying full price for something where they're not getting all the benefits that they were looking for. And we prorate that monthly. So first year joining, if you're a new industry member, you're not going to have to pay full price to join halfway through or 3/4 through the year. We are now prorating that program.
That's great. Yeah, that's news to me. So it makes a lot of sense. I know that questions come up a couple times, people that have reached out to me about ADSO and should I join now or should I join next year? And now really it's not an issue. If there's something that they want to join now, they're not going to have to pay for the full year and they miss the summit. So let's talk.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about that's industry partners. and certainly they can reach out to you for more information. What about DSOs and emerging groups? So let's talk about that side. What are some of the member benefits there? Maybe we should split it up. So you've got some of the larger DSOs. A lot of them are probably already members. What are you doing for them? And then what's in it for the emerging groups, the smaller groups? Because I think there's some perception out there that the ADSOs for the large DSOs, and I've got 3 locations, so why should I become a member? It's not for me. So maybe we should talk a little bit about that. And you probably hear that from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely. I've gotten on the phone. I've heard that a lot exhibiting also, where people will swing by the table and they'll say, oh, yeah, ADSO, I heard about you. I might join someday. And I'll say, well, why not now? It's like, I only have 5 offices. It's like, yeah, all right. So we have benefits for organizations at that level. And actually, so our industry partner, that's a flat fee program. Our DSO membership is a tiered program based on the size of the organization coming in, because we really are trying to make it as accessible as possible. We do have a good number of members in each of our tiers. And I think that because of the amount of advocacy that we do, where we're trying to be the face and represent the interests of the DSO sector, we do have that kind of reputation of being for the large national DSOs, because they're the ones that are going to care more about what's going on in one state versus another state if they're operating in both, versus emerging DSO, which maybe doesn't have that problem. So recognizing that, we've got our tiered program, first of all. We largely, the biggest benefit we probably provide to emerging members right now is our events and networking. And by the way, even at an emerging level, your CEO is on our board. So that kind of enhanced access, you're not just able to come to our events, but you're coming to our board meetings also. At in our lower tiers, it's a non-voting opportunity, but you're still coming to the board. You're coming to a board dinner. Right. You're talking to leaders in the sector and learning from them. So that's a big opportunity for you. But we have just recently, I get to talk about a bunch of new stuff on this podcast. It's great. This is a really good time for this interview. We've had a education tab, kind of a members only informational resource on our website for the longest time. And now that I'm here, I get to pay a bit more attention to that and put a bit more in there. It has, up to this point, largely been kind of an archive of recorded sessions or panels from our events. Now we've just started adding a whole compliance piece to it. So now we're adding a bunch of OSHA and HIPAA stuff in there, which is really useful, because that's compliance stuff is so important to get right. And it can be kind of hard to know exactly what piece you need at what time. There's a lot of regulations, as well there should be, but just getting a whole list of that thrown at you at once isn't always super helpful. So in the compliance edition that we're doing right now with the OSHA and HIPAA, and soon we're going to be adding more to it, we're providing links to the necessary regulations where you can find more information. And we're trying to streamline it so that if you're an emerging DSO, you're starting to grow as an organization, you're supporting more and more offices, and you can't be there in person all the time, and you want to make sure everybody's on top of things and everyone's doing it right. Now you can come to our site, you're a member, you can access this education tab, and you can say, okay, here's the question I have, and I've been scrolling through pages of text, but I need to know the answer to this one thing. We're trying to make that easier. So by compiling that information, by linking to that information, and of course, once we're in a place where we're happy with compliance, we can start hitting new topics also. So building out that chunk is offering kind of year-round support education. You don't have to be a member to come to our events. So the member ROI is going to be access to our board, and then it's going to be access to education beyond just education through our website year-round.
That's great. Yeah, so a lot of new things going on from a member benefit perspective. Yeah. Let's shift over to your events, and you have one that's coming up relatively quickly in Orlando, Florida, and that's Partnering for Growth. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that event and how that's geared more towards the emerging groups, and well, I guess all groups, both large and small. But take it away with Partnering for Growth.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. We've talked about Summit a little bit, or at least we've mentioned Summit. It is our larger event, so it's the one that people are more likely to know or have heard the name of. Partnering for Growth is a smaller event, and it is more targeted towards the emerging DSOs. The education that's going to be there is a lot more intentionally geared towards scaling up an organization and talking about potential pitfalls, best practices, so things to keep aware as you grow, so you can get it right the first time. You don't get up to a certain level where you have a bunch of offices and you want to go back and tinker your business model. You did it right the first time. So Partnering for Growth is targeted to those emerging DSOs. It is a smaller event, but that actually allows for. So this year, one thing that we're doing new with Partnering for Growth, we're doing all panels, and so there's going to be panels on various topics that are picked out to be useful and actionable for emerging DSOs, and then each of those panelists is going to get their own individual breakout session. So the big audience from their panel is going to break into 3 chunks, more manageable chunks, and then have a breakout with one of the speakers. We want to create the opportunity for people who are coming to this to voice the actual specific questions that they as an individual have about their individual business. And Partnering for Growth allows for that because we have a smaller crowd with a more targeted educational offering. Summit is a great event. Obviously, I'm biased, but it's also huge. So you're going to get a little bit of everything. You can make the most out of it. Partnering for Growth, we are kind of designing it in mind that we want to give people opportunity to get their individual voice. They're not just attending a session, but there's going to be Q&A, there's going to be breakouts, there's going to be small groups and small teams. They're going to be able to talk directly to the speakers. At least that's the hope.
Yeah, I've been to both before. I was at PFG before and the Summit, and I think it's a great way to describe it. Is bigger isn't always better. I think the Summit is wonderful, but it's almost it's the audience is a little bit different. The nice thing with PFG is you really do have the opportunity to ask a lot of questions, and I love the networking opportunities. Much smaller, more intimate. If there's somebody there that is going to be there, you're going to get a chance to talk to them and ask them questions. And the other thing is that you do have you have a nice mix of people there. So you have large groups that are on the panel, people that represent large groups, and they've been successful, and so you can kind of talk to them. And then there's some emerging groups that are on the panels as well. So I think it's a really good mix. So if you're a smaller group or an emerging DSO, you can really pick and choose who you want to talk to and know that they've been there before. They're either experiencing the same issues right now that you are, or they've already experienced it, and you can glean some of that information, that knowledge that they've already gained. So
yeah, absolutely. That's one of the biggest resources we have to tap into as an association is the collective wisdom of our members, and having them at different parts of the scale, different places on their growth cycle. It means that we can try and match people who need that education with people who've already been there, even just recently. One of the panels that we have at Partnering for Growth is called Growth Stories. And so some of our mid-level successful DSO members who've been growing very, very well and very effectively. And they're going to talk about how and how they've done it. So, you can come and we're not hiding the secret sauce. We really do want to be supportive of the DSO industry. So yeah, you can come and you can find the actual answer to that question. At least according to the 3 panels that we put together, and they all seem to be doing fairly well right now. So there might be something there.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to it and learning a lot there at the event at Partnering for Growth. You talked a little bit about the annual summit and some of the differences. The next summit is coming up next year in Washington, D.C., not too far away from where you are right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, that's true. It's going to be in National Harbor, so basically DC, and I'm really looking forward to it. I went to our last summit in San Diego, and it was a great time. That was my first summit though I've been told that Summit is continuing to grow every year, and I'm the membership guy, so I've been sending out a lot of surveys to our members and to our attendees about it, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback saying that Summit continues to get better year after year after year. So I'm really looking forward to Summit 2020. I think we've got something there, and I'm looking forward to making an even better event in 2019.
Yeah, totally agree. The Summit was great in San Diego, and I've been to some years past, and it does get bigger and better every year. But certainly PFG, Partnering for Growth, is coming up very, very shortly. So we'll have information at the end of this podcast and where you can go to sign up for it, find out more. And of course, we'll also have Luke's contact information as well. So a couple more things. So any other changes besides for PFG, the panels, is that really the big change where you're kind of focused more on panel discussions?
Yeah, so that's probably the most obvious change, at least from the perspective of anyone who's come to Partnering for Growth in the past. But this year is the first year that we partnered with DEO, the Dental Entrepreneur Organization. And they're great. They do a ton of events. They're dedicated to building the leaders of tomorrow, if I could borrow kind of a bit of a cliched phrase, but they really do it. And partnering with them is part of our very intentional move on our part, on ADSO's part, to support this emerging sector of the industry who maybe need it a little bit more than our larger members who kind of made it already, but who also think that those larger members are our main membership, the focus of all of our efforts, and that they don't have a voice at this table until they've grown to a certain size. Partnering with DEO has given us the confidence to set an ambitious attendee goal this year. So we are trying to grow Partnering for Growth a little bit. I know we've been talking a lot about how great it is to have a little bit more of an intimate meeting with a lot of people at the same level of development, but we are trying to reach more DSOs that maybe don't know us as well. So we're tapping into DEO's network for that, and they've been helping us a lot with the event planning as well. It was kind of a combination of brains on ours and theirs teams that came up with the idea of doing all panels this year, followed by breakout sessions to give the sort of watch people who've are experts in a certain topic discuss something, and then actually be able to go and talk to them about it yourself. So the partnership is new, the panel is new, and those are kind of the main things that we're excited about. But they're going to have a big presence there. Darren Akapan is going to be a moderator. He's executive vice president at DEO for our events, as will you, Bill Newman. If you're too shy to plug yourself, I'll mention that we're also going to be very happy to have you there as a moderator for our panels.
It's gonna be a lot of fun, and also one of the other things as well. So for Partnering for Growth, if we talk about the emerging groups, the DSOs, you don't have to be an ADSO, DSO, or emerging group member to attend. Am I right? Did I get that right?
You absolutely got that right. Yeah. So that's another myth which would be good to dispel. Obviously, our members, because they're members, are going to get a member discount as part of being a member of ADSO. But you do not have to be a member to attend. If you are a DSO, you can come to Summit and you can come to Partner for Growth. You don't have to join. You don't have to be a part of the club. Like I said, we really do want to try and support as many different leaders in this industry as we possibly can. So we would love to have you there.
So that's a big deal. So just remember, if you're not a member of the ADSO, you still can attend Partner, and yes. I encourage you to be there, Partnering for Growth. And if you're an ADSO member, DSO, you do get a discount. If you're a DEO member, you do get a discount. And if you are a Group Dentistry Now video podcast watcher or a reader, we also have a discount on the website. So at the end of this podcast, we will post all that information. And then, Luke, how can they contact you?
So, it'll probably be easiest rather than me reading out letters for you to just, find my email at the end. But I'm sharing my email. Well, I don't need to. Bill already has my email and my phone number.
We'll post it
at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, Luke LaLiberté, it's been really a pleasure to have you on the show, and thanks for telling us about some of the new things that you have going on, explaining to people, including myself, some of the things that ADSO does that I wasn't aware of. But I hope to see a lot of you at the Partnering for Growth meeting that is coming up in Orlando in September. So there's not a lot of time. Thanks for being on the show, and everybody, thanks for watching. And I'd like to welcome everyone to the Group Dentistry Now show. I'm your host, Bill Newman. We're really excited to actually have somebody in our studio. Normally we're talking to them across the internet, but Deb has been gracious enough to come to our studios here. And Deb is the Special Markets Manager, Deb Bridges, with Paradise Dental Technologies, PDT. Deb is a dental industry veteran. She has been in the industry for 40 years. Deb started out as an EFTA, which is an expanded function dental assistant, and she was passing instruments in a 4-handed 16-op practice. So certainly a big group, for sure. And that led to experience and an amazing career on the manufacturer side for the most part. And she has spent the last 10 years in special markets. And a lot of that time has been focused, and even more so now, in the DSO emerging group space. So Deb, welcome to the Group Dentistry Now show.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having PDT, and thanks for just inviting us to be here. So we appreciate the opportunity.
It's great to have you and really talk a lot about the hygiene side, not completely, not all hygiene, but your focus as a company is hygiene, and talk a little bit about your products and how they influence DSOs and emerging groups. So why don't you tell us a little bit about PDT, Paradise Dental Technologies, the company?
So Paradise Dental Technologies was founded by Linda Miller, who's still active, president, founder, CEO of Paradise Dental Technologies, PDT.
Okay.
And one of the things that she has been focused on throughout her career is she's a metallurgist by background. So she formulated these instruments out of Missoula, Montana, after being a founding partner of a major instrument company, and decided that they didn't want to do things to change the way the grip was on an instrument, the lay of the tip and the handle to the tooth surface. So she created Paradise Dental Technologies. And 19 years ago, this began. So that's how it all began for us.
Okay, that's super interesting. It's all 100% made, the instruments in the U.S., right?
So all of our hand instruments are all manufactured and sourced with U.S. materials, all including the steel. So everything is assembled in our factory in Missoula, Montana, and our surgical instruments are all German made. And we can get into why that's important as we get into this.
That's great. Yeah, and I'm sure it is. So tell me a little bit more about your focus and PDT's focus in the DSO and the emerging group space. So tell me a little bit about that experience.
So we're well known with hygienists, no matter whether they work at a DSO or a mom and pop practice, for a Montana Jack, which is how it began for us. Hygienists love it. Unless you're living under a rock, you really know what PDT is. So one of the things that we take pride on now is that we are a one-stop shop for all instrument needs in the practice, that being perio, surgical, endo, restorative, including our exam and our hygiene instruments, of course. And we've added to those instruments available to hygienists. So what makes it a great company is we are now a one-stop shop. So we're not just that hygiene company that people have come to know and respect and appreciate.
Okay. So the focus initially was on hygiene products for hygienists, yes, and probably still is a large majority Correct. Of what you sell. So tell me a little bit about when you're talking to DSO hygiene departments and the hygienists there, what are the challenges that you're hearing from them?
So it has to do with keeping hygienists and the practitioner, the dentist, chairside, but doing an effective job, right? So that it mitigates hand and wrist injuries, neck issues. Because if you've got a scrape hard to remove composite, if you have to do a restoration and you're packing composite and the material sticks, just a couple of examples, and you don't have an effective way to easily do this with with a hand instrument, which you can use a drill, like and a high-speed handpiece or a slow-speed handpiece, but you're really using hand instruments for the final prep touches, right? So no matter what you do, the cutting is bulk, but you're always resorting to a hand instrument, no matter where in the practice you sit, on what side of the chair, what you do. So all of these instruments are designed to mitigate all of these issues that crop up from using a heavier steel instrument, if you will, and the lie of the tip in the handle to the tooth surface is important, as I mentioned.
Sure. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So you mentioned the Montana Jack. So that's what you're known for. And,
Yep.
and that instrument's been around how many years?
God, 19 since Linda's invented, like maybe 18.
Okay. So 18, 19 years. So there's been innovations at your company since then.
Yes.
So tell us about some of the new innovative products that you've, Linda and the team there has created, and then specifically the ones that work really well in the DSO or a dental group setting.
Sure. So one of the things and one of the really exciting innovations that we've come up with is an implant maintenance system. So when you're doing implant maintenance, you have choices in the industry, and one is a plastic tip, and the other is metal. Well, metal to metal doesn't work, and titanium coating doesn't work because that coating eventually wears off. What Linda has done is, and the team in Missoula, is taken titanium, an actual titanium, it's full titanium, so it's not a coating. So the entire tip is titanium based. So when you sharpen them with a dedicated sharpening stone, you really aren't wearing anything away.
Right.
So there's no scratching, nothing left behind. So when it comes in contact with the implant for your maintenance or the abutment, and I'll get to that in a moment, that maintenance becomes risk-free basically from scratching and any of the other issues related to using alternative instruments or alternative methods to debriding that implant. So when you do that, what makes it effective is that it eliminates some of the issues related to implants failures. So, and that is the increase of biofilm, and how do you break that down? So these eliminate that. So, or assist in helping break down that biofilm. The other thing that we introduced is a Pinheiro arch kit. So a Pinheiro instrument kit. The Pinheiro instrument kit, what makes that unbelievably different is that now you have these fixed arch implants. So basically you have dentures that can be removed chair side by a dentist or a hygienist, but you have to remove these tiny screws, and they're called all-on-4s, but generally even quadrant arches, you can remove them, but the screws are super tiny, and should they fall or get misplaced, you have to, and they're expensive as well. So this Pinheiro arch kit eliminates the need to remove these screws and allows the clinician to really debride this abutment and the surfaces of the attachment point for these all-on-4 dentures or the quadrant arches, so that the screws don't have to be removed. So it really speeds the process up for the hygiene appointment and the cleaning and the aftercare of these things, which to date has been a real rough point of contention for having to do these.
So a lot of innovation around implant maintenance. What else besides implant maintenance? Tell us a little bit more. Besides, again, you said your staple Montana Jack.
So again, as I mentioned, we have a full line now of products, not just hygiene instruments. So we've branched into endo. We have perio instruments. We have our surgical line, and that surgical line out of Germany, made out of German steel and manufactured to PDT manufacturing specs. So they're all custom made for us to our specs as a company.
Do you find that providing quality hygiene instruments to hygienists makes them gives them a better outlook on the type of hygiene that they provide? Does it give them, because I know one of the struggles that DSOs seem to have a lot of times is employee retention.
Right.
So are trying to tie in the value of providing instruments that they want to use versus cheaper instruments. Have you heard any feedback from that perspective from a DSO?
Well, the edge on our instruments stays sharper and can be maintained that way longer than any other competitive instrument, 2 to 7 times longer. Again, that seems like a big gap, but depending on the procedures you're doing and what you're actually running into in the oral cavity, that's what leads to that discrepancy in that difference for how long it lasts. But it does last longer. In addition, because of the U.S. steel that we use in the tips of our instruments, it allows us, because U.S. steel is less porous than is other metals that other manufacturers are using now for the tips of their instrument, allows it to maintain its strength. We can get it thinner and maintain that sharpness throughout the life of the instrument.
Okay.
And to your point, why that's important to a hygienist is there's less issues related to repetitive hand injuries. And the more you have to scrape and the harder you have to scrape to do your job, the worse it is on your hands, cumulative effect.
Interesting. Okay. So just from a standpoint, it's there's the patient standpoint, but then there's also the clinician standpoint. Yeah, really, really good to know.
Yeah, and if you were to experience dull instruments versus sharpened instruments, and the difference generally between PDT and others is, as a patient, you would find it far more comfortable too.
Okay, good to know. So that's certainly one of the talk about values that you provide using PDT instruments. So that's one of the value behind that, using the instruments versus others. Tell me some other things. So we talked a little bit about ergonomics, possible issues with that type of thing. What else?
So some of the other things that we do is for DSOs, and I know a lot of companies have cut back on evaluation kits. We have not. We believe in order for someone to change what they're used to using, they have to hold it, touch it, feel it, use it, so that they get used to and see the difference. Because you can tell anybody anything, but it's in the actual use and getting it in their practice, in procedures, that you fall in love with these.
So if I'm sorry to interrupt. So if I'm a DSO that hasn't used the PDT product before, or maybe some of my hygienists have asked about it. So you talked about these evaluation kits. So you do offer those?
We do.
Okay. So that's one way that a DSO can actually test or evaluate the different instruments, and then based on that evaluation, they can become a customer. Besides the evaluation kits, which is a great idea, and I have heard that a lot of people, organizations, manufacturers have cut back on that.
Right.
So besides that, what else do you offer a DSO? From a DSO, besides an evaluation kit, what else are you doing for them?
So we offer a phenomenal customer care team as well, in conjunction with myself and our global sales manager, Scott Borden. We offer phenomenal personal touch that others may only hope to achieve.
That's great.
And we're really proud of it. We call it our customer care team, right? So out of Missoula, Montana. So they're hands-on. In addition, we're introducing a sharpening program that will allow DSOs to have a way to maintain these instruments to factory-like new condition. So on a annual, biannual basis, whatever we deem to be appropriate for their schedule.
Okay, good. So a lot of opportunities for DSOs to get evaluate products, have a totally different experience than what they're used to now with their current hand instrument company. All right, then. So besides that, let's talk a little bit about, we talked initially about the fact that products are U.S. made.
Yes.
And the steel's U.S. steel, and then there's the German side of it. So why is that important?
Well, I think you have to go back to the beginning a little bit, and maybe something I failed to mention is that Linda, in conjunction with developing these, didn't do it in a vacuum. What she did was she went to physical therapist and orthopedist to say, hey, this is how people, and she was with people in those disciplines that work with folks in the dental industry.
Okay.
So why that was important is that's what led to the creation of the instruments and the design that they are, from the handle, the knurling on the handle, and that it goes down to where the shank enters the instrument handle. Most stop short, so you lose your grip if you grip up on the instrument, or down, depending on how you prefer to call it. But if you like to hold it close to where the tip enters the instrument handle, in addition, the width, the circumference of that handle was critical in the design. So everything played a factor, but all of those factors came into play because of the input that was received from these physical therapists and orthopedic surgeons. And what that does is, as I said, it mitigates the high tendency, the propensity to have carpal tunnel, wrist issues, neck and back issues. So chronic issues within the dental industry are kind of reduced, if not eliminated is a strong word, but definitely reduced by the usage of these instruments over a repetitive period of time.
Okay, and that has a lot to do with how they're made,
Correct.
The materials that are used to
It's
make them.
everything that went into the back room to
Right.
develop these before they ever became usable.
And that was Linda. And
That was
all of her-
Linda and the team that she founded and
Yeah.
worked with on the other disciplines in this industry,
Right.
or out of the industry.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very good information. So we touched on a lot of reasons why PDT. Besides the U.S. manufactured, German manufactured
Right.
products, the quality, the research that went behind that, some of the newer innovative
Right.
products, whether we're talking about implant maintenance, we're talking about the perio side of things, the endo side of things, or also restorative and surgical. So you tell me some other, and of course you and your team, right? Your customer care team.
Correct.
Yep.
I think what's important is that within that DSO space, it's no different than any other practice, by the way. We'll just call it,
Right.
But it's DSOs that we're speaking about today. For them, it's a price value relationship. So you have to have a price value relationship in the things that you create in this and are used in this space. It's a volume thing as well. So you're not dealing with one specific discipline generally within this DSO practice. You're dealing with multidisciplines.
Okay.
So that being said, we cover those disciplines, no matter what it may be it singularly focused or multi-focused, right? For different procedures, different types. So what we are doing as we have developed a pretty much, I call it the secret sauce, Linda's secret sauce, right? So she'll probably kill me for saying this, but she is the Colonel Sanders of the dental industry, right? So it's a secret sauce, secret recipe she brings to PDT. So what we do that's different, and in that secret sauce and her formulation, is the heat treating process, the cryo process that she involves. It's all proprietary, but she's honed this over these X number of years to be the fabulous instruments that they are. So in that space, we bring a premium quality dental brand at a really value price. So
That's important
you
for
have a
groups.
price value relationship now that's been established and we can offer.
That's great. And you have a lot of loyal hygienists.
We do.
So that's important as well. So as DSOs bring on new hygienists that in hygiene school or in another practice have used PDT products, they would, I'm sure, be very, very happy to learn that the DSO that they're coming to work for has those PDT products available.
Absolutely. And when I went to school, EFTA was a standalone program. And now as you have hygienists getting into more expanded functions assistance through the procedures, if you will, so they're becoming EFTAs. Now EFTA is associated more with hygiene schools than standalone programs. So the interesting part about that is now hygienists are getting into injections. Well, they have been for a while, but a couple of states still don't allow it. But you're getting into injections, you're getting into alternative procedures that generally they were into cleaning and prophies and things like that, but they didn't get into the expanded function part. They are now in a lot of areas and a lot of states.
Okay, well, Deb, I really appreciate your time today. So if if one of the emerging groups that's listening to us or watching us, or an established DSO is interested in getting an evaluation kit or finding out about the sharpening program or about the customer care team, or they just want to meet you, how do they do it? What's your email address?
So my email is Deborah, DEBORA, yes, it's a little different, .bridges, BRIDGES, @pdtdental.com. Really easy, minus the spelling of the first name. Get past that, don't add an H, we're all good.
And
keep the O.
We'll post that as well, so you'll see that opportunity to contact Deb. We'll have the email address listed at the end of this video podcast. And then that sounds good. So, and you do a lot of the DSO shows and meetings. So
Yes,
you attend
absolutely.
a lot of those.
And the next non-DSO show, but a lot of DSOs attend, is the ADA meeting.
That'll be coming up very
Yes.
shortly.
It will.
Yeah. Well, Deb, thanks again. I really
Well, thank
appreciate
you,
your
Bill.
time.
I appreciate you having us. So thank you so much.
Always a
Having me.
pleasure.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the Group Dentistry Now show. I'm your host, Bill Newman. Thanks again, Deb Bridges from Paradise Dental Technologies.
Thank you, Bill.
The Group Dentistry Now show has listeners across North and South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. If you like our show, subscribe today and please tell your colleagues about us.